Welcome to Murder.
And everything else.
My name is Joy.
And my name is Cheryl. And Joy and I are two old friends that are going to chit chat about, guess what? Murder and everything else. Yay!
Woo! Happy Sunday!
Yes, everybody.
Sunday fun day. A quick reminder to our listeners that this is not for children.
Yep.
So mute it. Don't mute it. Just make them leave the room. All right?
Yeah, muting is not going to help.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Also, another disclaimer. This is a two-parter. So this is part 2 of Lauren McClusky murder. And next week, we are going to also have a two-parter. And we have a special guest. So cliffhanger to our listeners that we're going to have another two-parter after this two-parter, and it's going to involve a special guest.
Yes, that is right. And just so you know, we did get some feedback, right, Joy? So after these two-parters, we're going to try to condense our episodes so that we it's probably, we should do what, around at least long enough that they can clean the kitchen. How's that?
That's
while
right.
they listen to us. Yeah, so we did get that feedback and we are listening to you.
Or change the oil.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know how long that takes.
Me either.
And remember, everybody, to rate, review. Yes, send us a review. I don't know where that goes. Oh, are you going to tell them about our email address? Remember to review, rate, subscribe, like.
Yeah,
watch it
download
multiple times, download, but also tell your friends, your family, your doctor, your banker, your grocery market person. Yell it from the top of the mountains. Please spread the word for us. And did I miss anything?
No, but it helps us grow, guys. It helps us grow.
Help us grow. You want to let them know where they can write us?
Yeah, and if you have any feedback, or if you have any comments, or if you have any suggestions or any ideas of podcasts that you'd like to hear Cheryl and I cover, you can email us at murderandeverythingelse@gmail.com.
Yahoo! So yes,
and
you can.
For those of you who've been paying attention, we also now have an Instagram page, and I think I've made 1 or 2 reels. And we gave a shout out to my nephew who helped me set up the Instagram account, which I don't know why it took me so long because I have a personal Instagram account. But anyway, whatever. I think I set it up like donkey's years ago when it only took like 1 click. Now it takes like 45 minutes and 6 verifications, but whatever.
You got it done. That's the main thing.
That's right. We got her done.
Yeah.
So we're on the board, guys. We're like, big time in it. Me and Cheryl.
Fancy now.
That's right. We're like headed to the races.
But just tell everybody you know, please.
That's right. And you know what? You can just say, oh, I heard about this great podcast. Shameless plug. And you don't have to feel guilty or anything because it's not like you're plugging a personal product. You're plugging ours. So there you go. All right. So let's roll into our highs and lows. Cheryl, you want to take us into highs and lows?
Of course I do. Okay. My low was that last week, Sunday was Mother's Day, and there was a mix-up at work, and my friend who had planned for a month with her daughter this tea party, or it's one of those places where it's like an English garden type place. Anyway, she had planned it for a month, and her daughter had invited her mother-in-law and her sister-in-law, and there was a mix-up in the schedule, and no one came to relieve her. and I was sick that day, running to the bathroom, and I had a terrible headache. And I feel so she couldn't go, and she told me she was almost in tears. I think she was in tears at work. I mean, there's nothing worse than being in tears at work, I'm
Aw.
telling you. And I actually was on the recording with you, right, Joyce? So I I felt horrible. I still feel horrible about it a week later.
Mm.
I feel so guilty because you know how it is when you're sick and you're like, there's no way I can drag myself to do whatever it is. And then when you start to feel better, you look back and you're like, maybe I could have, when you start to feel better. So when I wasn't running to the bathroom as many times, I thought I should have just dragged myself in there, me and my poopy butt. The problem is when you're working the front desk, you cannot just get up and leave. You have to have someone come and sit and watch the desk. So, but I would have said fuck it, and I would have just put a sign up that said I'll be right back, because I just feel horrible. She planned this thing for me. Not only did she, not only was she, I had texted her early in the morning. I wished her happy Mother's Day, and she went on to tell me about this plan that she had for a month with her daughter, and she was so excited to go. She had bought some cakes or something, and then she was so excited to have the sandwiches that they serve at these tea things. Anyway, yeah, that was my low, because I feel like I said, in hindsight, when you're feeling better, but at the time I was like, there's no friggin' way I can go right now, um, to
You
relieve
feel
her.
responsible.
I totally do. Well, and that's my friend. I
Yeah.
most definitely wouldn't have thought twice. Well, I probably still would have. Well, if I didn't know the person well, I wouldn't have known their whole plans. But because she is my friend and I knew her plans, I felt freaking awful. So, Christine, I know you don't listen to this, but I apologize. I apologize. I'm still apologizing for it to her. So that was my low.
But you could tell Christine about this and then she could listen to it.
She knows about it.
Okay.
um, it's not her cup of tea. um,
Um
oh
you know
boy,
what? When people say that to me, I go, "We talk about everything else."
I know,
I'm
but
like, "So if you think it's just going to be murder and that's not your genre,
think
guess what?
again.
Wait, because we're going to cover adult undergarments, we're going to cover incontinence, we're going to cover health problems, we're going to cover shopping addiction, we're going to cover everything."
Yes, I know, but some people, it's not their thing. I have told people. Anyway,
I feel like some people just don't know what a podcast is.
this is true.
Yeah. I feel
But
like
if
a
they,
lot of people just need like a little tutorial on podcasts. If they get one, then sometimes they're like, "Oh my God, there's all this great information out there. I could have been like, listening to all these great podcasts."
mhm, or just sheer entertainment. That's what I listen to stuff for, just because I
Yeah.
like background noise. I don't like when it's completely silent. But okay, well that was my low. It's still my low. But my high is that a certain someone bought me my sunflower purse that I mentioned last week. Yay!
Aw, that's so
And
cool.
who's that special person?
Jehudi.
Everyone,
With
Joy
I don't
sent me,
know.
and
I
you were
don't know.
sneaky.
I don't know who Jehudi is, but whenever we would like my grandma would say like who did that, she would go, "I think Jehudi did that."
Did
And
you?
it meant yeah, and it meant it was like somebody who didn't want to fess up.
Oh, well, you should take credit for this. So you
Okay.
were sneaky because last week I mentioned that I found this really cute sunflower purse, leather sunflower purse, and I put it in my Amazon cart. And I told Kevin that that's what I wanted for my birthday. And you were sneaky and you're like, oh, send me a picture. I want to see what it looks like. And the next thing I know, everybody, she bought it for me and it showed up on my
It's
doorstep.
so
Yes,
cute.
it's so cute. I can't wait. I'm going to use it today. I'm actually having lunch with Christine where I will again profess my apologies. She's probably going to get sick of it and say, shut the fuck
Oh,
up.
I thought you were going to say where I'm going to profess how much it's important that she subscribe, like, and follow our podcast.
You can tell that Joy has one thing and one thing only on her brain. But
That's all
anyways,
right.
that thank you so much, Joy. That really, yeah,
Yeah,
it was my highlight for
that's awesome.
sure. I love it. I love it so much.
Aw. Well, I have to say that my high also has to do with purses. Um, so I've talked about this before, but last summer my mom passed away, and shortly around the time that she was dying, I impulsively, very impulsively, almost like kind of crazily purchased um a designer purse that was like so ridiculous. I mean, first of all, it wasn't even that cute. It was just kind of like, and it was so but again, I think I was just very like in a place where a lot was happening and I wasn't necessarily thinking straight, and so I made this very impulsive purchase. Well, I sold it. I sold it on Friday.
Yay!
And yeah, and it's kind of I literally have not been able to carry it because I don't like it, and because it was an impulse purchase, and because and so it's still brand new, and it's been sitting in my closet in the dust bag, protected, and I didn't know what to do with it, so I sold it. And so that's nice because I I didn't I still, they say like when you have a big event in your life, whether it's like a death or a divorce or a big move or a new job, something that's very large and all consuming, having a baby, they say don't make any sudden movements for a while. Wait until the dust settles, because many times you're not going to be in the same headspace and the same person you were when that happened. And I I very impulsively purchased this purse. So anyway, I sold it. So that was my
That's good.
high.
That's
Yes.
great because you were never going to
So
use it.
exactly. I was never going to use it and I didn't like it, and but this leads me into my low, which is when I bought it, much like the other purse I talked about another episode, it smelled like the person had smoked like 500 packs of cigarettes in the thing because it was just
Hmm.
like so stinky. Well, all I did was hang it up, and guess what? It doesn't smell anymore. Just
Yes,
airing
it
it
does
out.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just airing it out caused it, like the tobacco smell, to leave, which it's like so frustrating because the one purse that I love and that I wanted still smells like Famunda. So I don't know what to do. But anyway.
Oh, that one still smells.
Yeah, so
Oh,
it's like I don't, and I've been airing that one out, for a good amount of time. So I'm hoping that, you know,
are
I'm
you
hoping
airing it
that
outside?
no, because remember I'm worried that the birds are going to peck it.
Oh, okay. Wow,
And
you've got some
here
mean
we
birds.
live, girl. First of all, okay, let me just tell you, I was talking on the phone to you the other day, sitting on the front porch, and black wasps chased me away. They've set up shop and made a nest in this little like table that I have, that's this like
Oh,
ceramic table. They go in, there's little holes, like
oh
vent holes.
no.
They go in the holes and they set up shop inside. And I know that because I looked inside and I was like, great. And then the other thing is, I had a wreath on the front door that had, it was fake. It was not real, like, vines. It was like plastic vines, and the birds attacked it and ripped all the vines up to make nests. And so
Oh,
I had to take it down and put up something really ugly and plastic that they wouldn't attack. Before the plastic vine one, I had a wooden one that they would chip away at the
a
wood.
woodpecker came and
Well, I had to spray paint it gold, hoping that they wouldn't go after the wood because now it's spray painted gold. And all they did was sit on it and poop on my front mat. So my front
oh
mat had all this
my
bird poop on it.
God.
And then I have this bench that Gabe made that is on the front porch. And these carpenter bees have bored holes. I mean, you're constantly fighting all these like
Nature.
insects and stuff, which I should be glad that we have insects left, because most of the people, in this planet spray all these pesticides and kill all of the natural insects and bees and all that. But anyway, it's still frustrating because I feel like I'm
Well, you're living in
constantly.
their territory. You have,
It's true. We are.
yeah.
I
Hmm.
don't know if you saw this news story pop up, but it popped up in my feed. It said that 3 um boats have been attacked by orcas in this one area of like the North Sea where orcas live and breed or whatever, live and swim around. And they said maybe it's an indication that the life in the oceans are sick and tired of us trying to like spread out, and they're trying to get rid of us. What
Yeah,
do you
I
think?
don't doubt it. We have encroached on all the wildlife's territory, and they've had enough.
Yep, that's right.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Anywho, on
mm-hmm.
that note, we are going to be heading right back to part 2 of Lauren McClusky's murder. And Cheryl has even more in depth and riveting and interesting and thought provoking um, documentation on this sad, sad murder. So, Cheryl, take it away.
Yes. Okay. So, yes. So last week I described in detail what happened to Lauren McClusky, and I'm going to continue with how the institution failed her. So first, I'm going to recap um, last week, last week's episode, which is part one. That on October 22nd, 2018, at 9:55 p.m., 21-year-old Lauren McClusky was found dead inside the back of a car in the parking lot next to her University of Utah campus dormitory. She had been shot 7 times. She had been stalked and killed by Melvin Rowland. She dated Melvin for about 6 weeks. After breaking up with him, he would murder her 12 days later. While
6
running,
weeks? That's it?
yeah,
Holy cow.
because they found out, she and her friends found out relatively soon after she started dating him that he was a sex offender. And he lied about
Oh,
his
right. Right, right, right.
name and his age, and he was just bad news. And so she broke up with him, and 12 days later, she would be dead.
That's so sad.
While running from police, Melvin had gone into a church and killed himself using the gun he shot Lauren with. So again, just to recap, this the source for all of this was ABC's 2020 Running Out of Time is the episode, Running Out of Time, and it's the result of a 4-year ESPN investigation into Lauren's death. So now we're going to focus on Melvin Rowland's Christmas criminal history. So the
Christmas history.
I don't know why that came out. It's far from Christmas. Timeline of Melvin Rowland's criminal history. Okay, so September of 2003, he commits 2 sex crimes: enticing a minor over the internet and attempted forcible sexual abuse. July of 2004, he's sentenced to 1 to 15 years in prison. July 2005, he has his first parole board hearing. July of 2008, he has another parole board hearing. In May of 2010, he's denied parole. July 2012, he's released on parole after admitting to 2 more rapes. Tell
What?
me how that works. I don't.
So if you go to prison and you show up at your parole hearing and then you say, "Oh, and by the way, I also raped these 2 other people," you'll
Released.
you'll get out?
Yep.
Oh my god.
And this is why I'm focusing. This is why I wanted to make a part two, because I felt that Lauren's nightmare and what she went through was the first part of the story, and this is the
And that it
second.
was and that it was avoidable, right?
Exactly. Yes. So he's released on parole in 2012 after admitting to two more rapes. Because he was put in there for rape, right? And he admits to two more rapes, and it's like stamp released. I don't.
Oh my
October
God.
of 2012, he's sent back to prison for failing to participate in sex offender therapy and for having links for pornography on his phone.
God.
2013, a year later, he's released on parole again. February 2016, he's sent back to prison for 4 parole violations, including absconding or fleeing from parole supervision, internet social networking, and threatening a parole agent. January 2018, 2 years later, Melvin has another parole hearing. The board faced a choice: keep him in prison until the end of his sentence, 16 months later, or release him on parole so he would be supervised in the community. He says all the right things about redeeming himself and is granted parole, and he's wished the best of luck by the hearing officer. April 17, 2018. So this is only a few months later. He's released, and Megan Thompson was Melvin's final parole agent. She was assigned to his case in 2018. When she was assigned Melvin Rowland, she had approximately 70 or 80 other people on her caseload. So in the documentary, the reporter asks her,
Whoa.
Melvin had a parole hearing years earlier where he had admitted to committing 2 rapes that he had not been charged with. What the? Megan, his parole officer, says she had not heard that, and this was the first time she was hearing of it when they filmed this documentary. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
May
Unbelievable.
29, 2018, Melvin receives a warning from parole agent Megan Thompson about accessing an online dating site. She says to the reporter that there's no way the Board of Pardons would have approved Melvin being sent back to prison based on this violation. August 15, 2018, Melvin tests positive for marijuana. There had been no previous concerns about drug use, so Megan gives him a verbal warning. And during the documentary, the reporter tells her so many people feel that that was the chance right then to put him back in prison. And she responds and says there was no way she would have gotten a warrant. She says she handled it very appropriately and was told she handled it very appropriately. Reporters contacted the Utah Department of Corrections about Melvin's behavior and potential parole violations. Officials responded that the type of violations they were aware of during Melvin's parole would not have typically returned someone to prison, and that responses were consistent with state guidelines. September 1st, 2018, a month later, not even a couple of weeks later, he meets Lauren McClusky.
Oh man.
Had Melvin served out his entire prison sentence, he and Lauren would probably never have met and she would be alive today. But perhaps, and more than likely, someone else would have taken her place.
That's what I think. I think somebody else would have been the unlucky recipient of his attentions.
Of course, yes. A couple of women he had previously dated said they could have been Lauren. They said that after dating only a short period of time, Melvin became obsessed with them. So that's Melvin's road to meeting Lauren. And so let's talk about the institution. So the murder of Lauren McClusky sets into motion 2 investigations into her death in Utah. While the state's Department of Public Safety focused on Melvin Rowland's history with the criminal justice system, the University of Utah commissioned its own independent review. They presented a report that showed all of the ways the university had mishandled Lauren's situation, how the officers mishandled it, and recommendations for things that needed to be fixed. The university's president, Ruth Watkins, said of the report, "This report does not offer us a reason to believe that this tragedy could have been prevented." So it appeared that the board would protect the integrity and reputation of the university at all costs. Lauren's father, Matt, says the facts that were uncovered were shocking. Lauren tried to get help from the police so many times when in fact it should have just been one phone call. The most shocking thing to him was the large number of flaws in the system. In June 2019, Jill and Matt McClusky, her parents, filed a $56 million lawsuit against the University of Utah and several staffers, including members of the campus police department, alleging deliberate indifference and failure to intervene to protect their daughter, Lauren. Every system that Lauren tried to get help through failed. So, amid all of the questions whether campus police could have been doing more to help Lauren, now there's a brand new question. What had they done with the intimate photos Lauren had shared with them, trusting them? So remember in part one, she had gone to them and said that she was being extorted, right, with these intimate
Right.
photos of she and Melvin. So she shared it with them because it's evidence, right? But
Right.
now there's an investigation as to what happened with those photos. Lauren's friend who reported her concerns to her housing supervisor is asked during the documentary what had been done from October 2nd when she reported her concerns to October 22nd, the day Lauren was murdered. Her friend followed up with the supervisors several times and said she asked what was being done and if they had moved Lauren's room yet. And she was given responses, like that were placating her, like it was being handled. And she said their demeanor was very nonchalant. The university declined an interview but sent a statement to the reporters that Lauren's death forced the university to reckon with its dysfunctional police department, siloed campus operations, and incomplete employee training and communication. Lauren's case detective, Kayla Daloff, had been on the job for less than a year. School officials say there's no record that Kayla's supervisor, Corey Newbold, ever instructed her to follow up on Lauren's case. I don't get that. You're the case detective. You
Right.
have to be told you're assigned this case and you have to be told by someone else to follow up. Isn't that why you have the case?
Mm-hmm.
So Miguel Darris is the officer who took Lauren's initial police report. He is asked what threat he felt Melvin might be to her. He says they weren't 100% sure it was him. He says Lauren didn't think it was Melvin. She kept saying it was Melvin's friends, an unknown, or possibly Melvin. He says he didn't speak with Melvin and admits that he needed more experience with that type of case. He said they were trained to take the initial report, document it, but not trained with following up, and that it was the detective assigned to the case that was supposed to do the follow up. So it's basically like passing the buck. No, they were supposed to do
Right.
it. They were supposed to do it. And I just want to say Miguel Darris is this young guy, and I have to give him props for being to agreeing to be interviewed for the documentary because it does not put him in a good light at all. So I give him a lot of kudos because, like I said, it did not make him look good. And other, like the university and Melvin's parole officer, Megan, they all declined interviews. So I have to at least give it to Miguel Darris that he admits, you know, um, well, he says they weren't trained, and then of course in
Right.
hindsight, he would do things differently. He says, Miguel says he had dispatch run Melvin's criminal history and he saw that Melvin had convictions, but he was not trained to look further at Melvin's parole status. Miguel says he did not have concerns for Lauren's safety because she did not report any fear or concerns of domestic violence. He says his supervisors were aware of everything. Now, I have a I take issue with this because she's coming to you in the first place and you're claiming
Right.
she didn't report any fears. I don't, so
Well, I also want to go back that, like, I mean, all I'm assuming all you have to do is enter this guy's information into a database and it pulls up all of his priors and all of his incarceration and his criminal background. And based on the fact that he's a registered sex offender, that he's been, that he wasn't convicted of these two rapes, but he admitted to them, that he served time. I mean, it's a litany of of crime. And it's not like he stole a pack of gum or something like that.
no.
I mean, that should have been a huge red flag to any investigator, any police officer. Like, this is a bad dude. Like, some like something's not okay with this dude.
For sure. And the thing is, um, like I don't want to criticize Miguel alone because there were many parties to this, right? It's just that he
Hmm.
agreed to do an interview. So, like I said, on one hand, it shows, I got to give him a lot of credit for doing that because it does not put him in a good light. But I do have criticism because
Right.
he says he had dispatch run Melvin's criminal history and he saw he had convictions. Now, he says he's not trained to look at Melvin's parole status, but I'm trying to picture this system that he uses to look up Melvin's convictions, to look up his criminal history, and he saw that he had convictions. And you need to tell me that nowhere on there is going to say give his parole status and and more, and
Well,
stop,
I
hold on.
I
Why does he even say he's not looked at, what does it even matter of Melvin's parole status? You have this young girl coming to you saying that she's I don't know what he's talking about. She did not report any fear or concerns, but that's what he said on the documentary. When she's coming
Mhm.
to you and she's saying she's afraid of this guy and you see he has a criminal history, why did it take, what's with the parole status? Who cares about his parole status? He's out. I
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. I mean, I got to tell you, the only reason I mean, obviously we know that this kind of stuff happens. I mean, and I have to use the foster care system as an example of gross negligence, and I'm not saying that everybody who works for the foster care system is a monster, but I will say that when you see children, when you hear of children being placed in homes where they have padlocks on the refrigerator and they're chained to beds and they're treated like worse than animals, it's like, how are these people being approved to like have children in their home, and then they're being re-traumatized over and over and over again. um I go back to that case with those 13 children or something like that in Los Angeles. I can't remember their last name, but their parents, one of the girls climbed out the
Turpin.
window. Yeah. Um, they have sued the the animal children welfare system. What's it called? The
Mm-hmm.
DSS, because they were re-traumatized over and over after they were placed into temporary placement, foster care placement, after their parents were both put in prison. So, I mean, you take children who've come out of like possibly one of the worst cases of abuse. I mean, they were being starved, they were being sexually abused, they were being brutalized, they were, I mean, mental torture and all this horrible shit. And then they're re traumatized. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's just unconscionable. So, yeah, I mean, I wish this kind of stuff didn't happen, and it doesn't always happen. And I'd like to think that we have employees put in place in these positions where there's enough staffing that people can like check all the databases and all, and everybody's gone over things. But you and I both know, having had different kinds of jobs, that sometimes you're saddled with, way more than one person can do, and maybe something falls through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, you know, I know personally, a lot of times there was no system of checks and balances. If something fell through the cracks, it fell through the cracks. End of
Mm-hmm.
story.
Mm-hmm.
That's how kids get through middle school, elementary school, middle school, and high school, and they can't read past the first or second grade level. I mean, we used to make so many jokes about No Child Left Behind. So I think of this, and it's heartbreaking and it's crushing for this family.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, I'm torn with this. Miguel is, he's talking a lot about the training, which I do, I do know that there's bad training, such bad training out there. And you you really are as good as your training. And he was very young, some of this, I think, with good police officers or good, child welfare representatives, it's an instinct. experience. But he seemed young and went by the book, and maybe his training wasn't good. But for him to say that he did not have concerns for Lauren's safety because she did not report any fear or concerns of domestic violence. I don't know what you're talking about. She went to him, but he says his supervisors were aware of everything as well. So why are they not following up? They're in a position of managing. They're the next level. They're the top, what is it? The top guys. What
Top
were we
level
saying? Top
guys.
level guys, where you should
Well,
be if your employees are missing such an important um step of following up. So she was just left hanging, right? Like,
yep. And I will say that I can't help but also comment on the fact that we're talking about the state of Utah. And I will also say that the state of Utah, I believe, is where the FLDS operates. And those are the groups of people who actively participate in polygamy. So you have all these children and all these women who are attached to one man who are wards of the state, and the state turns a blind eye because, you know, they're they're just on public assistance, and a lot of these kids are not being schooled properly, they're not being cared for properly. And so I feel like we've got a state where there's a lot of loopholes in the law. And so
mm-hmm,
and also I believe that the way those women are treated is misogynistic, because
mm-hmm.
you have women who are basically, not uneducated and only being raised to marry and have children. And also, I'm very suspicious of a state where you can't buy a cup of coffee. I mean, let's take it down to brass tacks.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't buy a Coke or a cup of coffee, let's
Red
keep moving.
flag. Yeah,
Red
yeah,
flag, people.
yeah. So, according to the university's review, no one in the campus police department checked Melvin's offender status to see if he was on parole, and no policy and procedures were in place to require such a check. Paul Amon, I think is how you pronounce it, who was the Utah Assistant Attorney General from 1998 to 2016, said there should have been a lot more emphasis placed on the fact that this is a girl who has come to them with a problem and she should have been taken seriously. They should not have put it off and instead taken a look at it immediately. Miguel Darris allegedly shared Lauren's intimate photos with other officers.
Oh,
A public
God.
records request ESPN submitted in October 2019 prompted the university to open an internal investigation into what Miguel Darris did with the photos. According to Utah Department of Public Safety investigation released in August 2020, multiple officers said under oath that Miguel Darris showed the explicit photos for non-law enforcement reasons. One of the officers testified that Miguel made unprofessional comments about the photos, saying, "I can look at them whenever I want." Another officer admitted that he also made off-color comments, and another said he couldn't recall if he did or not. Miguel denies the allegations that he shared Lauren's photos with other officers. Lauren's father says if she had asked his advice about the photos, he would have told her to absolutely share embarrassing and compromising pictures with the police because they are professionals. He says now looking back on it, it would have been very bad advice. His mother says, her mother says it is a betrayal of trust. Lauren went to the police expecting to get help. In
I
2020,
got to
deputy,
just stop right
yeah.
here and say, for anybody who's listening to this,
Mm,
if some, and this is a message to both men and women, but if you are dating someone and they say, let's take some racy pictures. First of all, you need to tell that person, let's find a 35 millimeter camera before we proceed any further. Because for those of us who were born before a certain year, all those photographs are on negatives that can be destroyed. And
mhm,
also, um, anything that's digital that's on your phone, it's like, it automatically is backed up to the cloud. You don't own those photographs like
mhm.
you think you do. And also, trust me, I'm sure you're in love. I'm sure you are
Yes,
like
that's what I was thinking.
gaga
You're
over this
so,
person.
yes,
They
so
will,
caught up in the
I'm
moment.
sorry, but when that relationship is over and shit hits the fan, they are going to shit on you as quickly as they can. So think about how many people you feel comfortable showing those photographs to,
Yeah,
because that's how many people, the number in your head, um, it'll be like multiplied by gazillions. And
gazillions.
if you don't think your parents, if you're not comfortable with your parents seeing those photographs, then don't
Don't
do
do
it.
it. Yep.
Just just don't do it. Just hold up your fingers like it's a camera, old-timey camera, and do the little click click with your index finger and pretend you took a picture, because you can never get those photographs back.
No, I
I
feel,
don't I remember when Apple had that hack and all these celebrities' photographs were released
yes.
online. I was just like, "What on earth are you thinking?"
Yeah. No, I totally agree, Joy. That was, it's something I it said in part one, is that ladies and gentlemen, you have to be so careful. And I so agree with you. You just are so hot for this person, and you're just like
Right.
in it. And you know how it is when you're, especially when you're young and you just met someone and you just think it's so thrilling, but we don't live in an age where you can just destroy a Polaroid. It's one freaking click that takes
Yep.
half a second, and that very intimate, provocative photo is out in the ethernet. It's just, but it's so hard, I know, because when you're in the moment, it's so hard. But look what happened. In 2020, Deputy Chief Rick McLennan resigned. Two campus police officers were fired, and Miguel Darris was fired from a job he had taken with another police department. Campus police were not the only ones who knew about the harassment of Lauren. Melvin had confessed to coworkers at the call center where he worked about what he had done. He told his coworkers and a supervisor 6 days before killing Lauren that he had access to her email and that he had extorted or sextorted money from her. If his parole officer had known this, she says Melvin would have gone back to prison. The former Utah Assistant Attorney General says, of course, first and foremost, Melvin is to blame for Lauren's death, but as far as the system goes, he places the lion's share of responsibility for her death with the Board of Pardons because Melvin Rowland had given so many signs that he was not capable of surviving in society without putting others at risk. The justice system failed Lauren in so many ways. She did everything right, and the system let her down. October 22nd, 2020, so this is 2 years to the day of her murder. The university acknowledges and deeply regrets that they did not handle Lauren's case as it should have, and that at the time its employees failed to fully understand and respond appropriately to Lauren's situation. The University of Utah settles with the McClusky family for $13.5 million. Lauren's family says all of the money from the settlement will go to support the Lauren McClusky Foundation's missions, which includes campus safety, animal welfare, and amateur athletics. In addition, the university created a campus center for violence prevention and agreed to build an athletic facility with an indoor track, both bearing Lauren's name. There is also a Lauren McClusky cat wing at the County Humane Society. Lauren used to volunteer there and she loves the cats. Her
Hmm.
parents say she would be happy with that. So,
And I just
uh,
want to say that I visited the laurenmccluskey.org website, and it's
mhm.
beautiful, and it has a series of tabs. The website's beautiful, Lauren McClusky Foundation, and it has a series of tabs, and the second one says Lauren's Promise, and there's a picture of her crouched down, I imagine in a race, and it says Lauren's Promise. Everyone has the power to respond to listen to believe a person asking for help. And it's really,
I just got
really,
chills.
really, yeah,
Oh my
it's
God.
really beautiful. And I will say that I I mean, and the logo next to the foundation's website is a foot with two wings on it, and it's just really
Oh, I'm just
pretty.
looking at it
So,
right now. Oh my God. I
yeah,
encourage all of you to go look at it. It's laurenmcclusky.org. Oh, I have chills. It's so fucking sad. Oh my God.
yeah,
Her parents sent her to that university so she could go on with this great life.
hmm,
And she's fucking killed 6 weeks after meeting. Well, 6 weeks after meeting him, and then what is it? What did I say? 12 days after breaking up with him. Anyway, um, it's yeah, everybody, I encourage you to go to that website. Um, it's there's so many. Um, there's so much.
there
Like,
is. There's so
yeah,
much
like
to unpack in this.
the criminal justice system. Like, I get that it's imperfect. And maybe just the physical, is it just the physical, uh, what am I trying to say? Just the fact that there's so many offenders and that they gotta let some people go. Um, you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why
I
this
don't know, but
guy was out to do this to someone else. I mean, it's like the former U.S. Attorney General said. He's proven that he's not fit to be in society without hurting people. Why can't we
yeah,
keep him behind bar? Because Thelma and Louise said the law is some tricky shit, ain't it? Because by all accounts, this dude should have been in prison for life, but the law lets him out, and look what
yeah,
happens. And the only way the risk of hurting people ended was for him to end his life. So
yeah. I mean, he would have kept.
yeah, he
I
could keep
believe he was the
offending.
kind of person that was going to keep reoffending.
Of course.
I will say that so obviously prison is intended to rehabilitate people. They serve time for the crimes they commit so that they can come out and be reintegrated into society. In reality, does it really do that? I know there's programs that the prisons will allow outside organizations to bring in. It depends on tax dollars. It depends on who the DA is at the time and the governor. It depends on who's willing to support the programs, because obviously the federal prisons are not, and state prisons are not, don't have the tax dollars or the money available to bring in a lot of programs. And so outside organizations lead those. And during COVID, for example, so many of those programs were shuttered and closed
Mm-hmm.
because of the risk of, remember, you have a large population of people, they're all living together. And so any COVID was coming in or going out was coming in and going out by the people who went into prison to help with programs or the people who worked there. So yeah, I will say that, like, if you don't participate in the few programs or you don't qualify for them because of your status, because of where you work, because it doesn't work with the schedule, because your prison doesn't offer it, then you're totally out of luck. But
Mm-hmm.
if you do qualify for the programs, yeah, you can better yourself. But aside from that, there's very little that prison offers by way of rehabilitation. And
Well,
so it sounds really, really awful, but if you've got a 5, 10, 15, 20-year sentence, you just kind of have to tick the days off on a calendar until you're done.
mm-hmm.
And the rehabilitation happens with the individual. Am I going to be somebody who gets out and I'm better than when I went in, or am I going to get out and continue to do the awful stuff that I did to get in and probably end up going back multiple times? That rate of recidivism, where you reoffend, is so high,
Mm-hmm.
because again, you have population generations of people who they don't know anything different,
Well, and
so it's horrible.
well, just focusing on his situation, which is, I'm sure, not uncommon. First of all, after he's paroled after admitting to two more rapes. What happened there?
I know.
I
I
mean,
know.
was there a law that let him?
I don't know.
I
I
don't
don't
get it.
know, but I think it's important because I did a little bit of digging on this because of what I said about Utah. And for 4 years in a row, Utah has ranked dead last in a study evaluating women's equality in all 50 states. Utah was ranked the worst state for women's equality. Um, it's the lowest overall in the education and income gap
Oh
categories,
gosh.
and women earn 30.9% less than men in the state of Utah. So I think that is a huge basis for
Yeah.
misogyny,
Mm.
for lack of education, for, I mean, I mean, come on. Ugh,
Yeah,
I
I
can't
mean,
even.
it's yeah, because right there, that's like a that's a hard stop right there. It's like, come on, we need to take a look at
Mhm.
that. But also, so this guy who has is a sexual offender, he's sent back to prison at one point for failing to participate in sex offender therapy. Okay, so obviously rehabilitation is not his goal, right?
Right.
I think like somewhere along the line, there needs to be screw his initial sentence and it needs to be reevaluated at that point. And we've got a sex offender here who's not seeking therapy. That was part of the
Right.
deal when he went on a parole. Okay,
And
that's
who's not showing
huge.
remorse.
He's not showing anything to try to turn this vote around. So, and to add insult to injury, he has not only has he not gone to his therapy, he's sent back for having pornography on his links for pornography on his phone. And then he's goes back to prison. He's released again, and then he's sent back for 4 parole violations. He's fleeing from the parole supervision. I mean, this guy is the complete opposite of someone who is not only he's the complete opposite of someone who is rehabilitated, but also shows no desire to try to do any, there's no
Right.
working toward. He's he's internet social networking, so he's online again, which is where he does a lot of his what happened with one of those first violations was he was trapped like they do on Dateline when they do those where they someone is posing as a 13-year-old and it's actually an adult and then
Oh
they
God.
yeah, so that's how he got I wouldn't say trapped because it's not entrapment, but they yeah, that's how they caught him. Okay, so then he's threatening a parole. I mean, he's like the he's like the opposite of a model parolee,
Right.
and they keep fucking letting him out. Like at one point, could they have not said, "Listen, we need to keep this guy behind bars"? But
Right.
the but the I guess by the books he could keep getting out. Like anyone's common sense, like couldn't they have done something to? So as again, I said the only way it ended was he killed himself. You know what I mean? He
Right.
would have just kept going back to jail and well, with the murder, I guess. But that's the thing is, why is why are sex crimes less than murder? You know what I mean? It's like they kept letting him out and he was supposed to go, to therapy and he didn't and whatever, so like
Right.
he knows that once he's murdered her, he's not going to ever get out of prison. Well, he shouldn't have gotten out before. And it
Yeah.
wasn't like he was found guilty of a sexual crime, went in, did his time, and was rehabilitated, came out, and you never heard from him again. You know what I mean? This guy was
Right.
like a ticking time bomb, and like they
Right.
just kept letting him out. What in the actual fuck? I don't. I mean, but hopefully things have changed with her case. I don't know.
I don't know. I really don't know, but it's I mean, if anything, it is a cautionary tale to young men and women don't always trust the person that, you're in a relation. I mean, I know that sounds so trite and so kitschy, but just be careful who you let take pictures of you, intimate pictures of you, and also don't be giving out your passwords. That whole like two-step authentication thing and like my eyeball and my face scan and my fingertips
And my
and
booty, my
my
booty
butt
scan.
print, like, you know what? Take all those precautions because you don't want to be giving out your personal information to people.
And
I
you know
mean,
what? I'm going to say this, and this is going to be so unromantic, but put their name in Google. Just,
oh yeah.
try, yeah, just try. I mean, it doesn't hurt. Takes a second. When if it all works out
I
and you're married
love
10 years.
I love Googling people.
She Googled me, people.
I love to Google people. It's so much fun. It's so nice. You can find out a lot.
Well, because, her friend, she and her friends found out by his picture, because Catfish has,
Yep.
the series has taught us that you can find someone by image and all this jazz. So they found out that he was lying about his name and his age and all of this. But by then, she probably took those photos with him, so do it in the beginning, people. Do it in the
Yep.
beginning.
That's
And
right.
then when you're married and you have children, you have 10 children, you can laugh about how you Googled your husband to see if he
That's
was a
right.
sex.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh, man.
gosh. Well, this was a horrible, horrible crime.
It was. I just hope that things have changed or we're working towards preventing something like this. Again, the one that's happening all the time.
Yep. You know what else is a crime?
What's that, Joy?
That we are out of time.
Oh, man. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. And don't complicate your day.